welcome to the Phil Taylor Jones Show. We're glad to have you with us as we go on another adventure with the happenings of the world, you might say, and try to look at things a little more closely and try to figure out what's going on. I'm Phil Taylor Jones, your host, and let's take a look at a few things starting now. Yesterday I was watching telly, and because of something that happened here in my neighborhood, we looked out the window and just saw thick black smoke just billowing, and just covering the sun and everything. And we said, what the heck going on? So we look out the window as far as we could see, and off to the left was a building on fire. Well, we couldn't actually see the building, but we sure could see the smoke. So we turn on telly to see, maybe if the news is covering it, see what's going on. You never can tell these days with all these crazy people in the country wreaking havoc. So we turn on the news, and well, naturally they weren't covering it at that time. The news choppers and things were up there, but they didn't, have it on telly at that particular time. But what they did have on telly was Bitchery Clinton, the monster bitch, going on to say about Omar, what was that guy's name? Omar Mateen, yeah, the shooter down there in Florida. She went on to say about him that how he got his hands on guns, she'll never know, because if anyone is being investigated by the FBI, they should not be allowed to have a gun. And I looked at this piece of work and I said to myself, how in the world could you arrange your lips to say such a thing when you're running for president and being investigated by the FBI? See, that just shows the mentality that these cretins possess. It's like, oh, I can see what you're doing over there, but no one sees what I'm doing over here, not even me. Ladies and gentlemen, I beseech you, do not vote for that monster bitch. You will regret it, believe me. And then I also got to thinking about who she is and what she represents. As I said before, she is the ultimate political whore. She will become bedfellows with anybody who will be willing to throw money at her campaign. She has been very closely connected with Muslims. She wants to remain connected with them. She wants to double down on O'Bastard's numbers and bring even 100,000 to 1 million more into the country if she should become president. Now, by the same token, they spoke of Donald Trump and his doubling down on banning Muslims and Syrians and whoever else he is who want to come over here that are affiliated, connected with whatever you wish to say, Muslims or Islamic faith. And immediately he was pounced upon by these news whores. Oh, well, he wants to stop them from coming. That's not going to cut out homegrown terrorism, which this was. Well, just because this bastard Mateen was born in Indiana, I believe it was, does not by any matter of means indicate that this is homegrown terrorism. As we said so many times before, and as is common knowledge, those folks that brought down the Twin Towers, or should I say those bastards that broke down the Twin Towers, they didn't come over here and just crank up a 757 or a 767 and run it through the buildings. They had been here for a very long time. So this bastard was an anchor baby who was born in Indiana. Look at what his father said. Oh, well, those homosexuals, they're going to be destroyed anyway. God's going to take care of them. He's raising his son up in that belief. Sharia law and all that other garbage they believe in. He's being spoon-fed, force-fed, bottle-fed, whatever fed you wish to implement this ideology, this craziness, this lunacy. He's being fed that for 29 years. He has one failed marriage behind him. Woman says he's a nut, probably because he's practicing the Sharia law on her, isolating her from her family, beating her, flying off the handle at anything she says. A nut. A religious nut. A murderous nut. Then he come to light that he had married some other woman. They weren't sure as to whether or not they were together at the time of this tragedy, but married another woman and brought forth looked like a 2-3-year-old son. Was he then raising his son up in that crazy way so that 29 years later we have another incident like the one we had on Sunday? Who's to know? That's what Donald Trump is trying to talk about here. If you know of a potential problem, you keep it out. But I noticed something in this crazy country we live in, and I've noticed it under the last 2 presidential administrations. George W., crazy-ass Bush, and this bag of crap that we have in there now. They fail to understand that if there is a danger, you snuff it out. You keep it out. Let's take a look back at his administration, old W. Right after 2011, he goes tooting off to some mosque and then saying that these people are kind, loving, gentle beings, and they don't want to commit murder. They're here to be friendly with us. Their religion is one of peace and love. Yeah, they'll love you to death. At that time should have been the prime opportunity to shut the door on Muzzies. No, why do you say Muslim? Because they're the ones who took down the Twin Towers. Duh. Okay, shut the door on them. So, because you've attacked the Twin Towers twice. First in 93, I believe it was, you set off some bombs and what have you in the parking structure of the Twin Towers. You injured, maybe close to 100. I don't know how many were killed. Recollection doesn't come to me right now, but I know it was tragic. And then some years later, you came back and you took them down. We don't want you in our country anymore. The ones that are here, it's a question mark whether or not they're going to go back, but we certainly don't want any more new ones coming in. Because you've proven yourself to be dangerous and not worthy of being in our country. Well, we're not all like that yet. This is true. But we don't know which ones of you are. And we're not about to attempt to weed through. So you guys stay over there where you are and practice your Sharia law, practice whatever gobbledygook that you want to practice over there in a land where they accept you. We don't accept you. And what's wrong with that? Okay, here we come with a new regime. And why America voted for somebody named Barack Hussein Obama, I will never know. See, that's what I mean about the lunacy of this country nowadays. They will elect anything to office without scrutiny. This guy, obviously, 8 years in, is bad for the country. He's done and said and shown so many negatives that what few positives he may have brought forth have been overshadowed by those said negatives. He stands with the Muslims. He supports the Muslims. He loves the Muslims. How much more evident do his actions have to be before Americans in their entirety understand that? I still don't understand and been scratching my head. If I had hair on it, it'd probably be gone in patches. As to what's the great importance of Muslims being in this country in the first place. What, are they bringing cans of oil with them? I certainly haven't seen gas prices and oil prices go down because they're here. But I certainly have seen the murder rates go up because they're here. Why are they so coveted? Why are they so needed in this country? Why are they so wanted in this country? Let's look at something. All of you out there know of rape, murder, child molestation. If you have been a victim of that, then you have our sincerest, heartfelt feelings, because that's a terrible thing to go through, to be raped. But those who are raped, I don't think they're that forgiving that they want to go and snuzzle up against the rapist or accept rapists in their home. Same with child molesters. Even child molesters are beaten and tortured in prison, because to molest a kid, even with crooks, is the lowest of the low. Or to bash a baby is the lowest of the low. So, if your child has been molested, would you then want to go and snuzzle up and be friends or support child molesters? We welcome child molesters. You know they're dangerous. They've molested your child. Your child will never be the same again. An innocent kid who's supposed to be thinking about playing in lollipops and candy canes, but now has been exposed to the most brutal of sexual act. And then you'd want to go and snuzzle up against these people? We accept them. We accept child molesters, and we accept rapists. You don't do that because you know they're dangerous. You know what they're capable of. So why in the name of common judgment would you sit there and support and welcome people that are potentially dangerous? You don't know what these people are going to do. To criticize anyone who is thinking of American security is lunacy, whether it be Trump or anybody. I feel the same way. Criticize me, I don't care, because I'm never going to deviate from that. When you look at what this guy is trying to do, why nitpick it? Oh, it's not going to help homegrown terrorism. Well, when people come from Afghanistan with the gut poked out, mama got a gut poked out, and she dropped that bastard in our country. Okay, he's a citizen, and they are too now because they're here. Look at this father. He has been coming here. He has a California connection. He's been coming out to, I think it was Canoga Park, somewhere out there, and filming his show. While he did not necessarily embrace ISIS or Al-Qaeda, he did have some very negative things to say about America and her people. Very negative things. So his nose wasn't clean. He's teaching this little bastard of his, Omar, the tricks of the trade. Was hip to the happening. He's teaching his son. And his son automatically sees two homosexuals kissing in Florida and goes off the deep end. Baloney. There's lots of people out there seeing homosexual couples kissing. You might even see them doing something else, just like heterosexuals. But that doesn't cause people to go off and start killing up 50 people and injuring 53. Otherwise, most everybody that's within 5 miles of homosexual communities, the people would be dead if that were the case. That's bullcrap. That guy wanted to kill somebody, and he didn't care who it was he killed. He could have seen 2 dogs on the street, and that would flip him off and say, "Ooh, why are those 2 puppies running down the street? I'm going to kill everybody I see now because I hate dogs. Dogs offend me." He's hardwired to murder. Homegrown terrorism is very evident this is true. But when you go around yelling Allah Akbar, that's not homegrown. That comes from over there. And Donald Trump is saying, okay, at least we can cut this off at the pass. Because there's already millions, billions of them over here. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they are. That's the main problem with this. Just like it was in San Bernardino here. all of a quick sudden, bam, you get shot. And people are saying, well, we want our places to be safe. They were safe. Everywhere is safe until it isn't. The people that were working in San Bernardino, their workplace was safe until it wasn't. Club Pulse down there in Florida was safe until it wasn't. Where will they strike? We never know. We don't know, as I said before, who they are or where they are. Because there's too damn many of them here. But Donald is saying, hey, stop that flow from coming in. Sure, we've got a lot of work to do in order to hopefully put a dent in this. It doesn't come, President O'Bastard, from gun control. Oh, we need gun control. We need gun control. The gun laws in this country are gun control. Gun control. As I said before, if he took a baseball bat to people and started beating 50 of them to death with a baseball bat, would we now implement bat control? If he was throwing them out of windows, would we have to now have window control? Get real, people. Every time you turn on telly, every time you go to a movie, every time you look at something on the internet, what's involved? Bam, bam, bam. That's the way we solve problems. It's not the gun, it's the brain. It's what we put in our brains that make us want to gravitate to something. And especially those with diminished capacity or who have a proclivity to kill. You don't want to give them any ideas. So again, I say we need to look at the media, what we're teaching our kids. Every video game that you play has got shooting in it. Shooting, killing. You know, records, CDs, music industry. Gangster rap, killing. Shoot that mother, bleep, bleep. Kill that mother, bleep, bleep. Pick up my strap, pick up my thing, bleep, bam, bam, bam. Put a cap in your ass, bleep, bleep. You know, it's taught on every level. So no wonder if somebody steps on your foot, you want to pull out your Glock and put a cap in their ass. If somebody doesn't say good morning the right way, you pull out a Smith & Wesson, bam, you know. If somebody jumps in front of you in the grocery line, in the grocery store, you want to kill everybody at the grocery store with an AK-47, a MAC-10, Uzi, whatever. That's the way we're taught to solve our problems. Instead of sitting down and, you know, talking to each other. That needs to be talked about, Mr. O'Bastard. But you never say that because it's a multi-billion dollar corporation, entertainment. Whether it be video games, movies, music, what have you. You don't want to talk about that. These police officers need to be better trained. Not just a few months of academy and then you pin a little tin badge on them, give them a gun and put them in a Dodge Charger or Crown Vic, whatever, and let them go around. They don't have the proper training. There needs to be ongoing training. As a teacher, I had to have ongoing training. Staff development all the time. We're honing our skills because we don't know it all once we get out of the initial learning institution that we're in. We have to keep going. Find a better way. We need to teach our students in schools a better way. You know, they're so gung-ho over algebra and trigonometry and all of this stuff. Ask yourself the question, you that were in high school, how much of that crap do you really use today? There are kids out there can't balance a checkbook. There are kids out there that are getting out of high school, don't even know how to utilize a credit card. These are things that we need to do. We need to interact with each other. We have crawled into these things called computers and cyberspace that we have even lost the art of conversation. We can't even converse with each other on a proper level. In the grocery store, I was listening to somebody and they were having a somewhat of a conversation, and I actually heard the person say "lol," LOL. I looked at my brother, I was aghast. I said, do they actually know that they're actually talking to each other? They're not typing and tapping on the keyboard? So these are the things that need to be done. We need to be more careful about what we put out there, because what we're getting back is totally nuts. Yeah, we need to look at how this is affecting America on all levels. To be tolerant of each other, that's a given, if you can do it. Like I said, I neither condemn or condone. But I do have respect. That's your life. If a girl wants to fall in love with a girl, that's their life. I respect that life. Do I agree with it? No. Do I condone it? No. But I don't condemn it either. If a guy wants to fall in love with another guy, that's their business. If I want to fall in love with a girl, that's my business. I shouldn't be looked upon as something weird because I happen to want to fall in love with a girl. I don't necessarily look at you weird because you fallen in love with another guy. That's your business. But even in that, there is hypocrisy. Looking at another program on telly, and they were talking about how the people were lined up down there in Orlando to donate blood for the victims that are still fighting for their lives. Guys step up to the line and say, well, are you homosexual? Yes. Have you been with a guy sexually in the last year? Yes. Well, I'm sorry, but you have to leave the line. Oh, but no, they say the laws have changed. They say, well, they lied. The law has stood resolute and on the books since the early 80s. Please exit the line, sir. Next. Okay, let's talk about that thing. I thought these people, were badass. Anything goes. We embrace diversity. We love immigrants. We love refugees. We love the homosexual community. And we want them to, thrive and flourish. You don't have to be, hiding who you love. You just bad. When you look into the mirror, just tell you something you already know. You're bad. You're badass. You're cool. But that law has stood resolute on the books since the early 80s, when the AIDS epidemic was at its highest point. If you're a guy, you cannot donate blood. If you're a homosexual guy and you've been with somebody in the last year. Now, we understand that there was a big AIDS epidemic. This is true. But so did the homosexual community. They understood that too. And there were even more monogamous relationships between homosexuals than promiscuity, even to this day. And since the Supreme Court passed that law so that they can now get married and solidify it, there you go. But that law is still on the books. So I guess y'all kind of scared of something, ain't you? If you can be scared of a potential of AIDS, why in the name of J. Jonah Jameson can't you be fearful of a potential murderer in the midst of a bunch of people coming into your country? That boggles my mind. You can be so badass on one end of the spectrum, but timid as a 2-day-old kitten on the other. Have you slipped a cog? Possibly so. I would like to acknowledge the nations around the world that have bonded together with us in this time of tragedy, because Lord knows we have done so with them. Germany, France, Belgium, Brussels, and a few other wonderful countries, Great Britain, London. Thank you for your support. We appreciate it. It was a terrible thing to have happen in all of our countries. And it needs to be eradicated. But our first way of eradicating it is to get that nice, Phil, that undesirable element out of the White House. And it needs to be immediate. We shan't wait until January the 20th, 2017. This bag of excrement needs to go right now. Let Joe Biden carry out the torch for the rest of his presidency. But he really needs to go. Will he do it? No, because he's a dirtbag. He loves to inflict pain upon the United States. Again, I say, I don't know what he has against this country, but boy, is it deep-seated. So he's not going to go. But that's what I'm saying needs to happen. He really needs to go. If this country and its people had any guts, they would march on Washington and go over the fence, just pull down the fence, knock it down, go in there and drag him and his family out and say, goodbye, walk. You're not president here anymore. But we don't do that. We let him stay in there and wreak havoc and allow people to die because he is so in tune to his Muslim brethren. So that's the way that is. But again, it's going to take more than a simple ban of a certain amount of people. It has to happen full circle. But it starts with them being banned from this country. Because, as I said before, we've got too many over here as it is. And they're sleepers. We don't know who they are. They can get a tweet, or they can get a text, or they can get a phone call, or they can get an email to go into action, and bam, everybody's dead. Oh, well, so-and-so was such a safe place. As I said before, everywhere is safe until it isn't. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they are. And there are billions of them already here. Post 9/11. So that shows that these idiots in the government really utilize their brains. I'm being sarcastic. Because if I had been president, just like minutes or like maybe an hour after the Twin Towers came down and a big chunk was knocked out of the Pentagon and another plane went down in Pennsylvania, they shut down everything flying. I don't know how they did it, but I didn't see too many birds flying when they had that no-fly over the United States. That was a call to action that was great until you found out what the hell was going on. Since this type of people were the one perpetuating the crimes, shut the door. No more comes in. Don't even try to send them. But you didn't do that. And now we've suffered greatly because of it. Several times over. Before I turn it over to the executive, because I know he has a few things to say, I will say, guard well the presidential seat. We do not need another bastard in the White House. And this monster bitch, Bitchery Clinton, is everything he embodies and something that is more sleazy than you can ever imagine. You can look at her demonic face and tell that this woman is wrapped up in pure evil. We don't need her. We don't need her. I'd rather see Bernie Sanders in there than her if Trump doesn't make it. Exec, what do you got?
Well, about the same usual thing I usually say when I start off. I agree with everything you say wholeheartedly. You know, this Bitchery Clinton, like you said, isn't thinking before she speaks. Because talk about the pot calling the kettle black, you're saying, you know, that someone shouldn't have access to buying guns if they're being investigated by the FBI and you yourself are being investigated. And I've said it many times before, she shouldn't even be allowed to run for the presidency. You know, just this one fact alone, you know, despite the FBI investigation that she stole them hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff when she left, she should have been blackballed from ever coming there again. You know, minus all the other, you know, crappy things she's done. You know,
you're right.
You know, it's just, and the way they talk about these gun bans, you know, Bernie and her, they're, you know, to use another phrase, they're straining at the gnat, swallowing the camel. the guns are not the problem. As people often say, guns don't kill people, people kill people. Well, then that, lets people know that people are the problem, not the guns. And you need to get the people band out of here, like the Muzzies and the extremists and anybody that's crooked, not the guns. The guns aren't the problem. And even if you do ban a certain type, I don't know why they refuse to call them assault weapons. Sometimes they call them long guns. Well, that would intimate that there's a handgun with a very long thing sticking off of it. There's no such thing as a long gun.
What they call the pistol shotguns.
Yeah. But they're trying to. But they're trying to get rid of those and not realizing that even if they don't get them legit from a dealer, they can easily get them off a black market, some kind of van that they just call someone up and they show up with an unmarked van and get the stuff out of there and thank them. And just like on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, if you go to the ammunition thing and the guy says, "Oh, you didn't buy this from me, right? We sell file kits to file out serial numbers, and stuff like that." If the police guy asks, "You didn't get this here, right?" There's always a way to get what you want. And it's a crazy place. And for, as you said, with people to be going so against Donald Trump because he doesn't want people in here, and in one of his tweets he said he's trying to protect the American people. It doesn't make any sense. I can't wrap my head around it. Like you said, why is it so damned important to have them here when they're so destructive, with the majority of them? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you want something bad to be around you? Like you said, you wouldn't want a rapist to be around you. You wouldn't want the other type of person you said to be around you. It just boggles the mind how stupid people can be. Like they think that they're such a benefit to this country.
Your pots of gold. Okay, they're here.
It doesn't make any kind of sense whatsoever. People are just backwards, and just like the little Superman series, Bizarro World, where everything's opposite. That's what it feels like, in the United States. And I forget what that last subject you talked about was.
Oh, the blood issue.
Oh yeah, that.
Between homosexuals.
You can be so scared to get a disease that can kill you, but something that can officially kill you much quicker, you're not scared about that. These people need to be aware. Their eyes are like horses at races. They have blinders on the sides. They only see in front of them. They don't see what's going on around them, and they need to be wise to the hip to the happenings that these Muslims, at least the potential of most of them are being, murderous and wanting death to America, Allah's greatest and all that kind of stuff, and death to America and everything, need to realize that they're not good for us. Like you said, it's not worth trying to find them good ones in there because they're few and far between. And it's caused too much death, to Americans, and that needs to stop, and that's all I have to say.
Well, it was a good say. You look at the internet, this is another thing, and when it first came out, our grandmother, she asked me, what is this World Wide Web, www stuff? What is this super information highway? What is that? And, it was brand new, and I explained it to the best of my ability because I didn't know what it was that well either, because I hadn't really delved into it. But I said, one day this thing is really going to come back to bite us on the butt. And it has. Because you shouldn't implement something that you can't control. And the law-abiding citizens can't really control the internet. The crooks and the hackers and the creepies are so far ahead of the good folks in this race, it boggles the mind. There's been identity theft. There's been hacking. There's been all kinds of destruction. There's been, where they can infect systems. I was looking at a program on PBS called Nova. Perhaps you've watched it yourselves. And they were talking about cyber wars. And since everything that we deal with basically is computer controlled, we can control our home security from our cell phones. We can control our cars. So can they. They can lock up your brakes. They can lock up your accelerator. They can lock you in the car so you have to break your way out of it. They can lock you out of your car if you're on the outside. They can do all kinds of things that are injurious and filthy. It doesn't have to be somebody coming in, blowing up something with a gun, or shooting people with a gun, or blowing up somebody with a bomb. So just suppose that there's a massive gun ban, and all of a sudden all guns disappear. All computers don't disappear. The internet doesn't disappear. They can attack grids and put everybody in darkness and kill millions with a simple tap of a few keys. They can, with a tap of a few keys, mess up our water supply and kill millions. These are the things that are in the minds of these creeps. We don't need them in our country. They are dangerous. They've proven it time and time again. And with that, I'll fold my tent and scurry on down the road. Thank you for joining us. If you wish to become a subscriber, there's a little button there. You can just give that a little tap, and we'll be more than happy to have you come aboard. We enjoy doing these shows for you, and if you should have some ideas of a show that you'd like for us to do, let us know. If you've got something that's close to your heart that you'd like to impart with us and have us speak on, again, please do. We always appreciate you, our viewers. Thank you once again for joining the Phil Taylor Jones Show. Stay happy, safe, and watch out for crooks and creeps.